stars in the courtroom to your cousin's case. We breaking it all down. No rush, just pace. Hey, it's your girl, your favorite paralegal, aka Cassandra, and welcome to Legal Doc Talk. I know, I have been off the scene for a minute handling business, and I'm going to try to work my way back on into the YouTube world. But I wanted to take a couple of minutes and shed some light on the Shanquilla Robinson wrongful death case that was filed by her mother back in 2024, I believe. Um, this is a tragedy that the mother is still dealing with when it comes to not actually getting the answers that she needs in order to find out exactly what happened to her daughter. The responsible parties that were in that Airbnb are the only ones that know exactly what happened to Shanquilla. And it's sad that the mother and the family has to go through all of these steps just trying to figure out exactly what happened. So I do want to ensure that I stay up to date on this case because I am following. I have been doing all sorts of stuff, but what I need to do in terms of ensuring that this topic stays afloat, nobody forgets about Shanquilla, and nobody actually forgets the responsible parties in this matter. As you can see on the screen, I did leave a little insert where the mother's attorney ended up filing a document in support of their opposition to Imani Green. If you don't know who Imani Green is, Amani Green is actually the young lady that is in the bottom right corner of the screen. She is Dejanay Jackson, and she ended up changing her name a couple of years ago because she was getting all types of threats from people because people want answers. And I don't think that it is right for somebody to just go on with their lives knowing that they did something wrong and they took the life of another individual. So I don't think you're going to have peace. You can't expect peace in America right now, for that matter, over something that hasn't even been brought to justice. So the young lady that's at the bottom right hand corner, that is Dejanay Jackson. She ended up changing her name to Imani Green. But the excerpt that is on the left corner of the screen is something that the attorney wrote and placed into the plaintiff's, the mother's opposition to Imani's motion to dismiss. So to kind of give you guys just a backstory. So the case was filed in the Superior Court in North Carolina back in 2024. And not only was the Cabo Six included, but also the Federal Bureau of Investigations, as well as the U.S. State Department. The US State Department and the FBI said, hey, the state court doesn't have jurisdiction. Let's move this over to the federal court, where the federal court will actually have jurisdiction. Now, th- I'm telling y'all, there's a lot to this. So, in in them filing the case, anytime you file a case, you actually have to ensure that you serve all parties in the case. So all the Cabo Six would have to been served, the FBI as well as the U.S. State Department. So during that time, before it even went to the federal court, in the state court, they were spending their time trying to locate Imani, Winter, Malik, all of them to get them served because by law, whether you file it in state court or federal court, you have to ensure that everybody is served. So everybody was In my opinion, they were dodging service. Let's put it that way. So I think that, with the exception of Malik, I know he was one of the last people that it was very hard for them to serve, as well as Imani Green, aka Dejanay. And so when the case got moved over to the federal court, it's like the same process had to start all over again, because now it's in the federal court. You have to file a federal petition, and all of the members of, or the parties, have to be served with a copy of that petition. And so they were in the same boat they were in the Superior Court in North Carolina. So everybody had to get served. So long story short, Malik and Imani were the last to actually get served. Imani was served on May 7th, 2025, if I'm not mistaken. I need to go back and just ensure, but I know May 7th, definitely, she was served with a copy of the lawsuit. So once she was served with a copy of the lawsuit, she said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to, one, ask for time because I'm doing this by myself, and I need a lawyer. And by law, they have a right to actually get a lawyer. So the judge will extend some time for them to answer, to find a lawyer in order to answer. And once they find a lawyer, then the lawyer has to file a notice of appearance, so on and so forth. So in the event, based off all of that, she ends up finding a lawyer, and the lawyer ends up filing a motion to dismiss. Now, this was in the Superior Court of North Carolina. So there's two things that's going on. We got the federal case and we have the state case, but I'm going to break this down very, very quick for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and let's share this screen. And I'm going to pull up the actual document. Now, there's so many things that have been filed back and forth with this case, and we haven't even hit discovery yet. We are right now, people, the lawsuits filed, people have to get served. You got to allow them enough time in order to get their answer in, and then once the answer is, come in, then you move to discovery. But what happened was, these people got served, and every single Cabo 6 member moved to try to get this case dismissed. Now, for the other 5 members, in their motions to dismiss, and I'm not going to go over all of them, I'm just kind of summarizing. In their motion to dismiss, they're pretty much saying, hey, we didn't touch her. We had nothing to do with it. She did get the medical help that she needed, but we had nothing to do with it. We don't have no answers for you. That's pretty much what they're claiming. As for Imani, Imani is taking a different route for this motion to dismiss. She wants her she wants this case to be dismissed based off of or for her to just be removed from the case, because she's saying that she wasn't properly served, so on and so forth. If you don't know, the way that service works, either a constable or a process server has to serve a copy of the petition along with a citation or summons to you. In the event that they can verify your address but is unable to serve you at that address, the alternative means, which would is called a substitute of service. You can either, or the process server or the constable can leave a copy of the complaint and summons or citation at the door, or they can leave it with another resident that is over the age of 18 or 16 in some states. And I think the youngest I've seen is 14. Okay. And so she was served. But how she was served, that is what she is objecting to. So this is her motion to dismiss that she filed. And I'm going to briefly go over why she was seeking a motion to dismiss, and hopefully you guys can see this. So the first thing she says is that the service of process was improper. So, as I stated, there's 3 ways: have the constable or process server serve you directly, leave a copy at the door, or leave it with somebody at the residence. And that is what happened in Imani's case. But the crazy thing is, for the longest, they could not determine exactly where Imani lived. So the plaintiff, Shanquilla's mother, had to, or the firm, I should say, her attorney, had to hire a private investigator to go scope out Imani and Malik to determine, to actually confirm their location in order for them to be served. So in Imani's case, Miss Tammy Gordon, um, I I kind of redacted this so their address won't be displayed for the whole world to see, but that ended up serving Miss Tammy, who was a resident at that particular address, on May 7th, 2025. So Imani is alleging that Miss Tammy Gordon was a co-resident of defendant Green, and that Miss Gordon confirmed that Imani Green was a resident of the home. So that is what the plaintiff side said. They said, hey, the process server went over there. They asked who Miss Tammy was. She said she was a resident of this home, which was the okay for them to leave a copy of the citation, the summons, and the complaint, right? Imani's attorneys is saying that this is false. And then they go ahead and they give the case law and so on and so forth. And let me see. Now it says here defendant Green was not resided at that particular address since April of 2021, for over 4 years before the substitute service were purportedly made on her at that location. Then it goes on to say that she was a resident of another state, North Carolina, uh, after I think that was the address, but before moving to Connecticut. It goes on to say that defendant Green then moved out of the state of North Carolina to Connecticut in December of 2022. Defendant Green changed her bank accounts and other personal affairs to her Connecticut residence. Since December 2022, defendant Green had resided solely in Connecticut, established residency in Connecticut, and maintained employment in Connecticut. At no time following April 2021 did defendant Green reside at, well, I left that part out, but that was the address that she was claimed to be at. Um, so anytime that they are unable to serve somebody, they do have to file what's called an affidavit of non-service, just showing the attempts made and other investigative tactics that they use in order to confirm that they were unable to serve that person at that address. So this is what went down. Now, she is contesting that she was a resident at that particular address. Okay. As I stated before, the plaintiff's attorney ended up hiring was that Reno Investigations. And when you hire a PI, if you guys know, you know, if you don't, you don't. But for those who don't know, they take their job seriously. It's not just about sitting there following you. I mean, they're waiting outside in a location to, see a person's every move. You know, what time they leave in the morning, what time they come home for work. Um, what type of vehicle you have, because normally when I file a lawsuit and I'm having trouble getting in contact or finding a defendant, we usually hire a PI, and they have, and a lot of these PIs usually are retired officers, and then you have some that are really really good at their job. But I'm talking about they're using skip tracing tools, they're using the cameras from uh, the streets, everything. So it is not hard to hide from a PI because they're going to find out everything. And so that's what they did there. This PI, this investigative services, actually included in the mother's opposition to Imani's motion to dismiss, they included their excuse me, their investigation. And it was very intensive. They took pictures of the vehicles, all the vehicles that were parked in the yard. They actually looked up the vehicles and see who the vehicles belonged to. They took, and believe it or not, they actually have cameras that can take pictures of your license plate while you're driving down the street. They showed all of that on there. So they had a good indication of where Imani was, whether she was in Connecticut or whether she was in North Carolina. They knew where she was. But that's what they're currently fighting right now. They're also saying that the service was untimely. Okay. And it says even if the court should find that service on defendant Green was properly made, meaning that they did it right, they're saying on the other end it's untimely because the case moved to federal court and was removed from the state court. So this attorney for Imani tried to make it as if she was, not served properly, that they did it at the time where the case was actually being moved to federal court. All of that. All of that. Now I'm going to move to the mother's opposition to Green's motion. But this statement, this first paragraph, is what got me. Plaintiff Salamandra Robinson, by and through her undersigned counsel, submits this brief in support of plaintiff's reply to defendant's motion to dismiss for improper service and failure to state a claim upon which relief may be granted. Before this court is a mother who has been denied answers about her child's murder from the United States government and the only living witnesses. This lawsuit was filed with the exclusive purpose of getting the information and holding the responsible parties accountable. That's all she wants. She wants answers. And nobody, absolutely nobody, can give her the answers that she needs so that this family can be at peace. I've had family members who have passed that we still don't have answers. And I really honestly, I don't think the government cares. I don't think the police department doesn't care. Because if they did, this would be a priority. But for these six individuals to be continuously walking around, living their life as if nothing tragic happened in Mexico is bewildering. It is wild. It's crazy. This mother has not have a single answer or question answered for years. For years. That is all this lawsuit is about. It's not about getting money. It's about getting justice. And it shouldn't have take this long for well, it's going to take longer because there's still no answers that are being given to this family. And that's why I feel like it's important. I built this platform, to be nosy, to read these court docs, but some of these cases are serious, just as if just this one. We have no idea what happened to Shanquilla. We don't have anybody coming up being a noble human being and saying, "Hey, this is what happened." And what can you do? It happened in Mexico, but if the United States isn't doing anything, what can Mexico do? Um, I'm going to read this so everybody is aware of the facts. So this is once again the mother's opposition to Imani's motion to dismiss this case. Shanquilla Robinson, a North Carolina resident, attended a vacation in Mexico with Dejanay Jackson, aka Imani Green, and five other friends. In the verified amended complaint, that's what it states. Shanquilla Robinson was the only person that did not return from that trip. She was killed when her neck was snapped and left untreated for several hours. Immediately after Shanquilla was declared unalived by medical staff, Dejanay Jackson, aka Imani Green, and her five friends fled to North Carolina in the cover of night. Those six people are referenced to as the Cabo Six defendants. The Cabo Six did not tell the concierge, the police, the medical staff, or Shanquilla's parents that they were abruptly leaving a day earlier. Green did not participate in the investigation of Shanquilla's unaliving. Green, Imani, Dejanay beat, kicked, punched, and threw Shanquilla across the room in the villa. These eyewitnesses chose not to tell police that they recorded the attack and had footage of the crime. Shanquilla Robinson died in that villa, and her murderer fled the crime scene or fled. At the conclusion of the Mexican government's investigation, a warrant was issued for the arrest of Dejanay Jackson, aka Imani Green. Upon their return to the United States, the Cabo Six conspired to conceal, destroy, and obfuscate um, evidence related to Shanquilla Robinson's death to avoid criminal and civil liability. Salamandra Robinson, who is the mother of Shanquilla and a North Carolina resident, has made every effort imaginable to get answers about her daughter's unaliving. Despite being present and recording the final moments of Shanquilla's life, members of the Cabo Six chose to tell their grieving mother that her child was unalived from alcohol poisoning, which was a blatant lie. Upon defendants' return from Mexico, the footage of Shanquilla being brutally attacked by Imani Green was posted on social media. The viral video was widely circulated, and Miss Robinson, her mother, was forced to repeatedly see her daughter attacked in a full room of people that Shanquilla called her friends. She was naked, she was unprotected. What happened to Shanquilla is a matter of national concern and is of the utmost importance to the plaintiff. Salamandra Robinson was deprived of answers from the U.S. government. In response to a public records request, the United States government advised that the production of responsive records would likely take over 5 years. That is a lie. That is a lie. Those people that were in that office, that's a lie. Anybody can submit a FOIA request for documents, and it should not at the most on the government level. Look at Diddy's case. Look at Diddy's case, right? But you're telling me in this particular case, it's going to take 5 years for you to provide the documents relating to this lady's daughter's case? Plaintiff filed suit in North Carolina, October 25th, 2024. Shortly after filing, an investigation revealed that Dejanay Jackson changed her name to Imani Green, and I reported on that a while back. The plaintiff amended this complaint to reflect the defendant's new name because you don't want to be like, oh, she's not talking to me. I'm not Dejanay Jackson. So you got to amend the complaint to ensure that you're suing the right party. The Mecklenburg Sheriff's Office unsuccessfully attempted service on defendant Green immediately after filing because, mind you guys, they thought she was in North Carolina. Let's see. Extensive investigation revealed that defendant Green may be living in Connecticut. A Connecticut-based process server attempted to serve defendant Green at the Hartford, Connecticut address. After weeks of surveilling this address in Connecticut at different times of day, the investigator did not observe defendant Green at the property. A public records search revealed that defendant Green maintained an address in both North Carolina, and Connecticut. At the time of service, Defendant Green maintained a North Carolina issued driver's license, license plate, and car registration. A federal summons was electronically issued on January 30th, 2025. Service was effected 97 days later. That was a little over 3 months later by a process server in North Carolina. Tammy Gordon, who was a resident at that North Carolina premises of appropriate age, confirmed that Imani lived there in North Carolina. She accepted the documents, and on that same day, Imani spoke to Miss Gordon and received the summons and the complaint. You already accepted service, ma'am, because that's pretty much how it goes. If the process server can't serve you directly, you move for subservice, and you either leave it with somebody over the appropriate age or you leave it on the door. And the fact that Imani actually responded, she filed an answer. She didn't file a motion to dismiss, which I get it, but she filed the answer because she probably didn't know the exact steps to take and, to dismiss the case or get herself removed from the case. But the fact that she was served and she knew about the lawsuit. On the 27th, Green prepared her first defendant's motion to extend time to actually respond to the complaint because she wanted to find an attorney, right? She acknowledges in her document that she was served on May 7th. So at the end of the day, service wasn't improper. Service was timely. You were served. Nowhere in the motion, in Imani's motion to dismiss, does defendant Green raise improper service. So she never said, I was served improperly. She never said that I was served untimely. Nowhere in that motion. She didn't even say that she was living in Connecticut. She signed the motion with her Jamestown, North Carolina address, the same address she was served at. Y'all getting the drift? So how you gonna say you don't live? So how you gonna say you don't live in North Carolina? But you file a motion to the court saying I need time to respond to this lawsuit because I'm looking for a lawyer. And in your signature line, you put the North Carolina address. The federal court gave Green until June 18th to respond to the lawsuit. Let's see. Da, 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 da. She filed another motion to extend time to respond to the complaint. Let's see. And the second time she filed her second motion, once again, she never raised any issue that she was one, living in Connecticut, two, that service was improper, or three, that she was served untimely. She used the same address that she was served at on that second motion. And on her return envelope, put the address that she was served at. But now she wants a dismissal of the lawsuit because you're saying I was served improperly. I was served untimely. I love this plaintiff's attorney. At the end of the day, this girl was served properly. She has gone great lengths to avoid accountability. She has invaded Mexican authorities and Shanquilla's mother. She changed her name. She has driven back and forth from North Carolina to Connecticut repeatedly over the years. She has maintained multiple residences only to avoid service. If I'm talking about it, other people are talking about it. She can't run. She can't hide. People know who you are. People, unless you got plastic surgery, people know what you look like. So you can't hide. She claimed that she hasn't been in North Carolina for nearly 4 years, but yet you are putting that address as clear as day on any filings that you file with the court, but you're saying you don't live in North Carolina. You have to make it make sense. So, through it all, everybody, she was properly served. There is proof that she lives at the North Carolina address. Even she submitted documentation that she should have just waited for her attorney to because I don't know what she did. And I'm not gonna go any further because she has bank statements, lease agreements, and all that that she provided to support her motion to dismiss this case. But through it all, after all that kicking and screaming, literally, guess what the judge did on June 1st? They denied Imani's motion to dismiss. They denied her from having herself removed from this case. Why? Because the court found that service was proper and service was actually done in a timely manner. Okay. And I just want to take a moment and I'm going to close out of this, but I'm going to take a moment to read what the judge signed off on. This is the order on Imani Green's motion to dismiss. So, after the judge reviewed both sides' statements, documentations, everything that supports each party's motion or objection, this is what they found. On October 29th, 2022, defendant Green, aka Dejanay Jackson, allegedly assaulted Shanquilla Robinson in Mexico. On October 28th, 2024, the decedent's mother, in her personal capacity and as the representative of the decedent's estate, filed a complaint in Mecklenburg County Superior Court against defendant Green for wrongful death and battery as a result of the assault on October 29, 2022, and against defendant Green and 5 co-defendants, referred to as the Cabo Six, for negligence, civil conspiracy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Plaintiff also named the United States Department of State and the FBI as co-defendants. The state summons issued this date listed, that's the address, Jamestown, North Carolina, as the defendant's address. On November 8th, 2024, after learning that defendant Green changed her name, plaintiff filed an amended complaint and an additional state summons was issued. On November 11th, 2024, the case was removed from federal court. On December 30th, 2024, a federal summons was issued for defendant Green, listing that address in North Carolina. On January 30th, an additional federal summons was issued for defendant Green's address in Connecticut. Plaintiff attempted to serve defendant Green at the Greensboro address, but that summons was returned unserved by the Guilford County Sheriff on December 30th, 2024. And he also indicated that the defendant doesn't live at that address per the current resident that was at that location. Plaintiff then engaged with a private investigator to locate and serve the defendant. The private investigator attempted service on numerous dates between April 7, 2025 and April 16, 2025 in Connecticut, but was unsuccessful in getting Dejanay served. The private investigator then determined that the defendant was traveling frequently between North Carolina and Connecticut. Mind you, this is the order from the judge. On May 7th, 2025, another private process server left a copy of the complaint and summons with Ms. Tammy Gordon, who is the process server identifies as a co-resident. On May 21st, 2025, Imani filed a request for an extension of time to file a responsive pleading in federal court, admitted to being served and listing the Jamestown address on her filings. On July 9, 2025, after receiving a second extension of time to file a responsive pleading in which defendant again admitted to service and listed the Jamestown address, defendant Green filed an answer in federal court that also included a motion to dismiss for insufficiency of service and statute of limitations, among other issues raised. On July 21st, 2025, plaintiff filed a response to the defendant's motion and asked the federal court to deny the defendant's motion to dismiss. Plaintiff also asked the federal court for additional time to perfect service if the court determined service was insufficient. So, pretty much what they're saying, like, hey, if you guys tell me that service wasn't perfected, then please allow me enough time to actually do it the correct way. That's all the plaintiff ended up doing. On February 6, 2026, the case was remanded back to the state court after the federal judge dismissed claims against the FBI and United States Department. Prior to the remand, the federal court did not address defendant Green's motion or plaintiff's request for additional time to serve the defendant. After removal to the federal court, the federal rules of civil procedure apply to the issues of service. So the plaintiff has 90 days after the removal to serve the summons. If the summons is unserved after that time, the court on its own, after notice to the plaintiff, must dismiss the action without prejudice against that defendant or order that service to be made within a specified time. So in a nutshell, once the case is removed from federal court, they still get 90 days in order to serve the defendants. Okay. And if they are unable to do so, then the case will be dismissed without prejudice, meaning that they are able to refile the case. It's just pretty much saying you got to start all over again. Okay. The federal court did neither of these things, nor did it give notice to the plaintiff that it would dismiss the complaint. All right. So through it all, this is what the court found. The court found that service was um done on May 7th at the North Carolina address. Okay. Plaintiff made good efforts to serve. So she did everything correctly to serve Imani. As a result of plaintiff's good faith efforts, there is a good cause under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure to retroactively extend plaintiff's time to service through May 7th, 2025. So what they're saying pretty much is that the plaintiff did everything right. So they are going to honor that Imani was served on May 7th, 2025, meaning that service was not improper and service was done in a timely manner. I love it. So guess what happens to Imani's motion to dismiss herself from that case? It was denied. That is actually good news. That is actually good news. Now, I believe Malik also filed a motion to dismiss, and I'm looking at my notes. I think they're waiting on his response. Defendant Khalil Cook, he filed a motion to stay. He filed a motion to stay, and that is set for hearing on, let's see, July 22nd. And actually, the plaintiff tried to see if they can push that hearing date out, but the court said nah. So they denied plaintiff's request to extend the hearing. And so that hearing for Khalil Cook's motion to stay is going to be heard on July 22nd. I'm trying to think what else was important that I wanted to say. I think that was it. I think that was it. So that is pretty much the up to date on what is going on with Shanquilla. It is a process. Litigation is not something that can be done in 3 months. All right. Now we look at Diddy's case and they be like, yeah, they flew by, but this here is a little bit different because we have no answers. We have none. We don't know. I mean, we know what happened to Shanquilla because she's not here, but we don't know exactly how it happened. We don't understand why justice has not been served. We don't understand why the Mexican authorities does not have these 6 members in their jail. This is something that cannot be brushed under the rug. I mean, we go on about our daily lives, we talk about these celebrity, their divorces and, all this other crazy stuff. But here we have a mother, and I'm pretty sure there are other parents out there who have lost a child and still don't have the answers. But since this was so nationwide, this is something that we can't just let go. This is not something that we can just forget about, because the parties need to be held accountable for what they did. Point blank, period. All right. All right. So that was all. I like I said before, I am going to try to I have to get back into the groove of things, but thank you guys for tuning in, and leave a comment below. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that eventually this mother will get justice? Do you think that these six, one of those six, two of the do you think any of them are going to step up and say, hey, this has been going on long enough? This is what happened. Put your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until then, I'm out. Bye.